Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2020 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGillivray Speedway, 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. And if you happen to be coming here for some reason to visit Speedway or the Indianapolis area, you got to stop by McGillivrays. It's a great place, good food, good service, and the adult beverages are ice cold. Tonight's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, and SVRA. Founded in 1993 to spearhead Honda's entry into IndyCar racing, Honda Performance Development has overseen successful racing efforts at all levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midgets to IndyCar and prototype sports cars. HPD offers race engines and competition products for professional, amateur, and entry-level racers. For more information about HPD and the company's racing products line, visit hpd.honda.com. A couple things to mention real quick before we get going. Got to congratulate Tony Stewart on his induction into the NASCAR Hall of Fame this past weekend. Yeah. And some sad news. My cohort in crime is leaving town tomorrow. She'll be gone for 6 weeks. I'm going to be lost. Also, if you didn't catch this, it was announced today, but last week it was announced that Tony Kanaan is making his last tour this year. It'll be for 5 ovals. And today the Floyd Racing announced that the road and street course will be driven by Sebastian Bourdais and Dalton Collette. They will split it because Sebastian has a sports car contract, so they'll split that. And don't forget, the first race for the NTT IndyCar Series is not that far away. 13th, 14th, and 15th of March down in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you haven't got tickets, get them. And, of course, the 16th will be coming back from Florida, and the 17th is St. Patty's Day, so we won't have a program on the 17th. You're going to miss one. We want to remind you, if you need dental work, there's only one place anywhere in the area to go to, and that's the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis have a phenomenal practice. So if you need an appointment, I highly recommend you give them a call. Number is 317-846-6125. And as I have mentioned, we have a new computer guy. It's A+ Affordable Computer Doctor, Steve Freeze, and he makes house calls. So if you got a problem, give them a call. Number is 317-328-0766. Now, my first guest is a gentleman that I am very pleased to have join me tonight. As you may have heard, he does commercials on the radio from time to time. He's a very successful car dealer, and he owns a race team and has for quite some time. His family is very much connected with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he's back again. Please welcome Mr. Dennis Reinbold.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
Your grandfather, Pop Dreyer, was at the Speedway for many years. Your family has been connected with the 500 in one way or another for a long time.
Yeah, my grandfather, I guess, is where it started. He came here, worked for Duesenberg. He was planning to go to Oklahoma to work on a horse farm and ran out of money and happened to be a really good mechanic. And so just went down the street to the Duesenberg brothers and said, hey, do you have anything? And they hired him, and he ended up being the last person that they ended up letting go when they shut their operations down. And then he built his own cars, Dreyer race cars, for a long, long time, through the 50s. He actually built the chassis in the front row of 1931. And so that was one step. And then my uncle, Floyd Dreyer Jr., worked side by side with him for years and years. You know, they gave a lot of great drivers, legendary guys, their start in race cars. And my uncle was, I mean, he was a great fabricator as well. Both of those guys were just amazing. And then another uncle that I had, he passed away a few years ago, Bill Spurley, who ran the restoration at the 500 Museum for years and years, for over 50 years. And so, yeah, it goes deep with our family. Both those guys, Bill was a pit crew chief. My Uncle Junior was a right rear tire changer for Lloyd Ruby. who I always was my favorite driver growing up. When I was a little kid, I got to sit in his car. That was way cool. I didn't tear anything up or turn any switches. I got warned pretty profusely about that, which was probably a good idea. And they kept an eye on me. So that's our background.
And strangely enough, you have stayed in around automobiles because you have several very successful dealerships in the area. So cars are in your blood in one way or another.
They are. We started, and again, going back to my grandfather, Pop Dreyer, over on West Washington Street. He had BMW motorcycles at the time. Actually, Dreyer Cycle's the oldest Honda dealer in continuation in the United States right now, the oldest one. So that's pretty cool. Thank you. Wow. And my grandfather had BMW motorcycles, and he called the factory and said, my daughter and son-in-law would like to have BMW cars. They said, okay. So I don't know how long later, but I remember rolling up the chain link fence in our backyard, which is where Dreyer Cycle is currently, and a truckload of 5 BMW cars come in, and there we go, off and running. So it was that simple back in that day. A little different now, but we put them on the grass, and we built a showroom, which is the service department at Dreyer Cycle currently, and that's where we started.
What got you into the racing? When did you get the bug to say, geez, I want to get involved in to the point of ownership?
Man, I think I grew up with the bug. It's like if you grow up around here and you hear the cars from over there when you're a kid, it's like, yeah, I want to go. And I bugged my dad so much that he had to take me. And I remember probably 1968, when I was 7, going for the first time there and seeing cars going around at speed, and I was like, whoa, this is cool. So most of the people, pretty much everyone in this room, understand that feeling that it's not just something that you show up, and especially if you live here, you can't just go there and not be, moved by it.
Something just caught my attention, disturbed me a little bit. 1968, you were 7 years old?
Yeah.
I came here in 1964, and I was 22. You're just a kid. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I guess you're older than me by a little bit, but that's okay.
A little bit my foot.
That's all right.
I can remember one year in your garage at the Speedway, you had a barber chair. You're the only one that ever had that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
we're not doing that again. How's that?
Yeah, I know the guy that was there.
It wasn't a bad thing or anything like that. It was just like, okay, that took up some space, and we needed the space. But anyway,
you currently run, or you have been running sports cars, and you've had a crew. You keep a crew all year long, don't you?
Yeah, we've kept the same guys for a long, long time, and we run rally cars. And
that's what I meant, rally car.
The rally car competition. We're doing a test Thursday and Friday in Scottsdale or Phoenix. It's what used to be called Bondurant. It's now called Wild Horse Pass. And so we plan on running in the Nitro Series, which is owned by somebody help me. Travis Pastrana. Thank you, Tom. Travis Pastrana, and we're trying to grow that series and help them with that. We run 4 lights cars in that series, and we're planning to run a supercar as well this year, which is a bigger, higher horsepower car.
And I got to mention, I see your top guy, Tom Blattler, is here tonight. I appreciate him stopping by. One of the best in the business. You have been running Sage Karam for a number of years. What is it about him that fits what you want on your team?
I like him. I think he's very, very talented. And he's shown it in the past. His first year, he ran up to like 6th place. We got cut out by a yellow, went back to 21st. I forget where he finished, 11th or something. Tom? Yeah, ninth. Okay, better than I thought. And then we crashed out a few years ago in fourth place with the Gas Monkey car, and that car was just hooked up, and he was passing people where you shouldn't be passing people, which is probably why we got crashed out. But you know, you got to go for it in this race. And we're going to run him also in St. Pete and in Toronto. So we're expanding a little bit and gradually, you know, dipping our toe back in the water. So that's fun for us, and I'm excited about it because I love this series. I believe in it. I think it's growing and getting better and better. It's fun to watch because the races that I don't go to, I watch them all. So, yeah, just trying to get back at it.
And I know you are running a second car in May, and somebody else who's been with you, J.R. Hildebrand, will be at the helm. Is he not?
Well, we think so. You know, we've talked about it. We don't have a signed deal at this point in time, so I can't say for sure. I hope it goes that way, but, you know, who knows in this sport? I mean, you have to have it on paper and be sure about it to be sure, but I think our intention and his intention are the same, so we think it'll work.
I mean, let's face it, J.R. Hildebrand has shown he knows how to drive a race car as well, just hasn't gotten the seat time that a lot of people, myself included, think he should get.
Well, that's true. And, you know, you mentioned the barber chair. That's not a bad idea to bring back, actually. I just thought of that. That could help a little bit. But JR's like he's got his Samson hair. Was it Samson that had the hair? Yeah. So that's fine. If that makes him stronger, better, let's go for it.
As long as it fits in the helmet.
Exactly.
You know, it interests me that a man of your status in the business world, and you're very successful. You got 2 or 3 agencies. I don't know. You could have 10 for all I know. But to have the time, and it takes time because you go. I invited you a couple weeks ago, and you couldn't be here because you went to the test. You participated and are with the team a lot.
Yeah, this test coming up's the first one I'm going to miss probably ever this week, but got other things to do. But at Sebring, we went out and we did a Monday on track. And keep in mind, we haven't been on a road course, a street course, I should say, for 6 years. So we had a lot of work to do. We had to figure out the platform. We had to figure out suspensions. We had to figure out the braking system, because all this is brand new to us on a road course, sort of road course, street course. Sebring emulates St. Pete and Toronto. That's why we wanted to go there. And we had a Monday test day. We had a Tuesday to turn the car back around and make some changes, and then ran a full day Wednesday, all of which we just gathered a ton of data, which was awesome. And it was great. And I feel like we came away from there pretty good. I mean, you never know how you're going to be until you line up at the track and see how you compare against everybody else. And these other guys have been doing it full time for, you know, since we haven't been doing it full time. So we had, you know, very productive test. Had a little fun sprinkled in. We did a night in my hotel room where all the team came over and watched Ford versus Ferrari. I'm sure many of you have seen that. It was pretty cool. So pizza and beer night at the room with all the team. So that was a good kind of social gathering, and just, it was a great movie. I loved it. I think everybody loved it, but just a good way to just hang out and be together and work through things.
Well, one of the guys on your crew in May, of course, has been Andy O'Gara, and he drags along this kid, come with him, Greg Beck. Will they be with you in May, and will they work the other couple races you may do?
Not the other couple races, but they'll be here in May. So we're excited to have Andy O'Gara back. You know, he brought Sarah with him more and more last year. and which was great. And yeah, Greg, let me tell you, when we got our 2 new cars a couple years ago, Greg basically hand built these things. I mean, he's just a craftsman, and he's one of the guys, he's old school, and he's a guy you just turn loose and know it's getting done and getting done right. And so it's always a pleasure to have him around. I respected Greg when I first came into the IndyCar series in 2000, actually 99. Greg had his own team, and he tried to keep that going as much as he could. And now being associated with Andy, that's pretty cool. It's good to have kind of a full circle thing, and it's somebody that you have tons of respect for and really appreciate being around.
Yeah, I met Greg probably 25 years ago or so, and he learned from some of the best how to take a nickel and get $1 out of it. He's pretty good at that, and he understands the cars. He knows the cars, and he's a good guy. I think you're, in my opinion, you're fortunate to have he and Andy. Andy's a good worker and understands what's going on. But of course, he's got a couple other things going on. It's an indoor facility of doing something with food and all that. And they got Whiteland going, and I understand that's going quite well. So he's got a pretty full plate.
Yeah, he's been a busy guy, so we're fortunate to have Andy back and being part of our team. Andy was our crew chief for Sarah when she was with us back in, I'm bad on dates, 2007, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there for a couple of years. And we worked well together, and Andy does just put his head down and work. So great to have him back and be part of our team.
Who else is on your crew? You maintain a full-time crew all year long. You don't race all year long, but you keep your people busy, sweeping the floors in the showrooms and stuff. But who all's on your crew, full-time crew?
We've got 10 guys that are full-time. Chase Selman is our team manager. Jeff Britton is our engineer. We brought in guys already for preparing for St. Pete in the month of May. Dave Booty Taylor, who a lot of you guys know. It goes on, and just the quality of people that we have. Wayne Selman came back to us, which we're excited to have him back. I'm going to miss out on so many people, but I know them all, and I know their names, but to recite it's not easy. Easier questions, please.
How did you get into this rallycross?
We did a one-off kind of deal in 2013 with Scott Speed in Irwindale Speedway in California, and liked it, wanted to kind of see where it went. And then, to be able to contain everybody, because I didn't want any of our guys to leave, and I wanted to keep them busy, so it was a way to do that. So I bought some lights cars, and we have 4 of them now, and keeps us busy enough through what was our off season. Now it's kind of in conjunction with the season, but keeps them busy enough to keep them on the payroll, keep them happy, out of trouble, however you want to put it.
There's I think there's one or Brian Herter. He runs rallycross, doesn't he? Or he did.
He did. He used to. He doesn't now. Bobby Rahal was involved. Ganassi was involved.
I think Andretti was too, wasn't he?
Andretti still is.
As I thought.
Or was. I don't know if they're going forward, but yeah. So a lot of IndyCar crossover into rally car.
I know it interests me for somebody like yourself to have, the family background in motorsports and stick with it, be successful in the business world and still stick with it and be a part of it. I think that's kind of neat, and it's got to be fun from your perspective, sitting up in the scoring stand in May and saying, "That's our car. There it goes. There's our other car. There it goes." It's got to be kind of neat.
It's usually pretty cool until it's not. But yeah, you take pride in that, right? I mean, you see your car out on the track and it looks good and your driver's doing well and that sort of thing. And then there are other sides of racing as well. I mean, I remember back, my big story about AJ Foyt, 1999, if he doesn't lend Robbie Buell his Kenny Brack's backup car, he doesn't make the race. And Robbie's the last guy to qualify and get in. So I'm standing in line waiting for all these, stories from AJ to talk to him and say, can you put Purex on the car? And he did it. And we kept Purex, and without that, we don't have a team. By no stretch of the imagination, just doesn't happen. And so it was really an honor last May. We do an award in honor of my grandfather, the Pop Dreyer Award, and gave it to AJ. And that was just a really, really cool kind of thing. And, it's fun to see a guy like that that's won so much and done so much for so many people get recognized, and he was humbled by it and kind of choked both of us up a little bit.
It's there's something about this sport, and I'm not sure what it is. I like football. There's 12 guys on the field, and the quarterback gets knocked down, he gets up. Somebody missed the block and he gets okay, but in the motorsports, if you don't put the wheel on right or you do something wrong, now you could have a serious problem. You got a guy behind the wheel could be in more trouble than a quarterback getting knocked down by a linebacker.
Yeah, first of all, Don, there's 11 guys on the field. If you have 12, it's a flag. Too many men on the field.
I wanted to see if you were going to catch up.
I was paying attention because I also love football. But it is what it is. It's a dangerous sport, and it's high intensity, and you also have to hurry. If you're 7 seconds or over, it's not a great stop. So you try to do everything you can within that time frame, and we practice, we film it, we do all these things to try to get better and better every step of the way. And I feel like we've got two really good crews that can do that, but nothing's guaranteed, and you can run over something. We had that happen with Al Unser Jr. where he ran over a wheel hub and went through the oil, and he spun out in 3 and in today. It's that quick and that simple, and it can happen like that. And it's nothing he did, nothing we did. It was just probably should have been a yellow on that one for debris, but we didn't get it, and that's what happened.
Coming back, obviously you agree with the direction that the NTT IndyCar Series is going. Do you anticipate a lot of major changes now that Roger is a steward of the event and IndyCar and IMS production? Do you think there'll be major changes? I know he's interested in wanting to get and help get more teams involved, more cars on the track.
I think he's going to do some changes. I don't know specifics at all. I've heard already that there's going to be upgrades to the facility in general, whether it's, paint and things like that. And I know Terry probably knows a lot more about that than me, but I do expect some change. And, it's like you look around and everyone I've talked to is like, hey, thankfully it's Roger and it's not some investment banker group that has no affiliation, has no tie into what we all love. So yeah, he understands what he's doing around there, so it should work out pretty well.
Yeah, and the announcement, I was there for the press conference, and I forget what the question was. He said, well, let me just put it this way. I know where pit 1 and 2 are, and I found my way now to Victory Circle. So he said, I got things pretty well under control. But he also said, you won't see me in the pit area anymore. I'm backing away. So, Tim's been around a lot of times. He's president of Penske Racing. He can handle it. I'm going to back away.
Yeah, Tim's one of the best guys on pit lane, and Roger has been for years and years, and I kind of don't have a comment to that last bit. I wish Roger would stay on the pit stand. It's fine, and never mind. I'm going to stop there.
All right. Well, he said he wasn't planning on being there, so And I've heard a couple of people say, well, it sure won't look good if all of a sudden he wins the first 4 races in a row. Well, if he's better than anybody else, you're going to win it. He isn't driving.
He's done it before, so it happens. And contrary to Roger, I don't really know what pit 1 and 2 look like, but we've been in 4, so that's not bad.
You could see there anyway.
We can see, but I mean, we've been in the very first pit entry for the last, I don't know, 3-4 years. And I'm okay with that. You can win from anywhere, I'm convinced. So it's a matter of having your day, or it's not your day, and you make changes that work, and the driver has confidence, and you have good stops, and you go.
I think people don't realize how important the driver and the engineer speaking the same language, how important that is. I used to work for a team where the engineer was also the owner, and he'd go check the temperature on the tires. He said, you can tell everything from that. Then I asked the driver, how's it going? If he said what I saw, we're in good shape. If he didn't, we got a problem. So it's a working relationship, and all guys have to do their job and do it quickly and efficiently. And of course, you practice changing tires and pit stops and so forth. So I don't know what it is about the sport. I mean, the cars, when I first came, they built them. Now they don't. They're all pretty much together, but there are things you can find that make your car a little faster than somebody else on occasion. So I think it's kind of fun, and I still love the sport. I'm still here, still every week for some unknown reason. Still enjoy it, like talking to you. I think it would be great to see you. Any chance you think that you will expand past 3 races? Are you working with the possibility that's there?
We do have some possibilities of that. We announced what we announced because that's what we're sure of right now, and I don't know what else we may or may not do at this point. So I can't expand on that, but you're speaking the same language thing, that point you made. We had a race in Milwaukee with Felipe Giafone driving. And we said go counterclockwise, and he didn't know what counter meant, so he just kept going clockwise and made the car undrivable. So speaking the same language, not literally, but because we have meetings all the time, but in that case it was literal. So that sort of thing happens, and you can't take things for granted when you do that.
Oh, you got to pay attention. Well, I, for one, was very pleased. By the way, who is your sponsor?
Wix Filters.
Oh, you've had them.
They've been around. They were with us with Paul Tracy in 2011, and then came back like 4 years ago and have been part of our program since, including our rally car series.
So they're your primary sponsor to step up for the extra 2 races?
Correct.
Are you running both of them in May, or just the 500?
Just the 500 in May.
Okay. All right, well, who knows? Maybe you'll sell enough Wix filters that they can expand their...
Yeah, everybody buy Wix filters, please. Run out to the hardware store or wherever. It helps, trust me.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to come here. I'm sorry that you're not going to go to a test first one you've missed. It's got to be kind of strange, but I'm sure with the businesses you're running, you've got things you got to do, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm missing the test is because a real close friend, John Andretti, passed away, so going to go to that. And then we've had, it's been a tough stretch for IndyCar with Bill Simpson, good friend John Martin. Going to miss those guys a lot. I mean, I talked to someone and said, that just puts a void in you when you miss someone that you can count on, that's always been there, and that you enjoy, and you know what you're going to get when you speak to them. And that's why I'm in town.
Well, I understand that. John was a heck of a good guy, and the people I know that had seen him recently said with all the pain he was in, everything's going wrong, he never complained, never said boo. You never knew it. Didn't really know it.
No, the guy was a fighter for sure, absolute fighter.
And I've seen a number of people say if it wasn't for him, I've gotten a colonoscopy. If he hadn't have said that, I probably wouldn't have thought of it. But so he may have saved some lives and didn't realize that either. And of course, Bill Simpson. There's a guy you never know what to expect from him, but And we're still talking. I'm trying to get a hold of Jim Voiles. We're going to do a night here and talk about Bill, because Jim knows him as well as anybody probably. Anyway, I wish you nothing but the best. I know everybody here will be looking forward to seeing you in May, and hopefully between Sage and if you can get JR, people will notice, oh boy, look who's back. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Come by our garage anytime. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, I said, if you didn't hear, you're walking by the garage, stop in and say hello. Thanks for being here. Dennis Reinbold. Thanks. Appreciate your time. As my next guest is on his way up here, I want to remind you that if you want to find out what it's like to ride in an Indy car, there's an easy way to do that, and that is to go to IndyRacingExperience.com and find a date that will work for you. And in the promo box, put DK1, you get a 50% discount. It's an exciting ride. People that have done it love it. They get out screaming excitement. So if you get a chance, do it. Or you can call Sean to 317-243-7171. And again, tell her the secret is DK1. Get a discount. Are you interested in a vintage car, or do you have one? You need it restored. Well, there's only one place you want to go, of course, and that's to the Grand King shops. They can take care of it. They can rebuild the engine. They can put the car back together, get new parts, make new parts, whatever you need, they can do it. So give them a call. Talk to them about what they have if you're looking to buy one, or if you got one, what they can do to help you. The number is 317-820-3595. That's the Grand King shops, 8155 Crawfordsville Road. Stop in. Is it time for insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial building? Do what I have done and a lot of people have done. Call VP Insurance. Talk to Mike Pardee. They can help you out. Number is 317-248-0070, and you'll probably find out you get better coverage for less money. And are you into vintage racing? You need to subscribe to the magazine Speed Tour. So go to svra.com and subscribe to it. It's a great magazine, great stories, great pictures, fabulous. You'll love it. Look it up, svra.com, and subscribe. My next guest is a gentleman who's been in production of television and racing for one of the first, I think, to do racing on television, produced it. He was with ESPN. He's done it all. He's now with NBC Sports Network and NBC doing the IndyCar races. So I'm very happy that he has time to be here tonight. Please welcome Terry Lingner.
Thank you.
How did you get into television production? Where did you start? Yeah, I know you graduated from Ball State.
Yeah, that was basically it. I studied, I was originally going to try some theater, and that didn't go so well on stage. I tried in front of the camera. That didn't work so well, so I decided to be a producer and studied it in school, and yeah, just wanted to do something exciting, and honestly, I've been doing it about 42 years, and it's never felt like work.
You know, it's interesting to me because somebody starts everything, and you were one of the first in motorsports, if I'm not mistaken, televised motorsports. Were you not one of the first producers?
Oh gosh, I don't think I can go back that far, but I had the good fortune to be around the ABC folks that did such a nice job early on with the race, and got to work with Jackie Stewart and Jim McKay up in the booth. Real lucky situation for me on that. So yeah, it just goes back for me in the late 70s when I first started, but that was already going pretty well by then, you know. But
you've been very successful. You're the first company I'm aware of has now changed to Innovations. It used to be the Lingner Group, and you've produced not only racing. I called your office one day and I said, "Is Terry in?" "No." "Oh, what's he up to?" "They're doing a yacht race. He's in the middle of the ocean somewhere." I said, "You got to be kidding." "Really?" "Yeah." So you don't only do racing; you produce a lot of stuff.
Yes. You can't start at ESPN at the beginning and not do everything from arm wrestling to Australian rules football, which obviously everybody's a big fan of, to Formula One. It was unbelievable experience.
Now, you mentioned that you made an effort to be a thespian, and it didn't go real well.
Yeah, not so well.
But you have offspring that have done quite well and are doing quite well and are moving up in it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've got one son that's a principal dancer at the Indianapolis Ballet. And he's traveled on Billy Joel shows and such right out of high school. And my other son's a Broadway performer. So, been in sports my whole life, and they went for the applause.
Well, yeah, and I've heard, and I mentioned this to you coming in, that I get people call me and say, what in the heck did they do that for? I said, how would I know? I'm sitting watching, I don't know. But I find it interesting that you wanted it and didn't do it. Now they're doing it successfully, and you've produced 1 or 2 Broadway shows, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. I lost about as much money producing Broadway as I did doing Fast Masters.
I see. Yeah, Fast Masters was a real go-getter.
Yeah, it was.
How much, obviously dramatically, change in television production since you started to today? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, at one time you was up in the race control. They said we had 3 monitors. Now we got 50, and I've seen your production trailer. You got that many, if not more.
Yeah, it was really interesting this year. This is NBC's first year at the 500, and we ended up having 149 sources. And that's, you could throw in 15 onboard cameras, or 15 cars that have onboard cameras, 4 apiece. You can make the numbers do whatever you want. But it was interesting. The truck that we normally do each race in is IMSP HD5, and we actually had to slap 4 extra monitors even on the sides. So me and the director were doing this, so it was pretty incredible. It was such fun. It's just exciting.
Now, at the end of the day, until the cameraman goes to the victory circle, do you know who's doing what? With all the things you're watching and all the things you're looking for.
Yep.
I remember it was at, I can't remember, it was Iowa or somewhere, where I forget who it was left, and he took the part of the fueling hose with him, but he said, why didn't you throw a yellow? Because we didn't see it.
Yeah, that was actually Milwaukee.
Was it Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
And they said, we don't have that problem anymore because now we got more cameras and more monitors.
Yep.
Something I have noticed an improvement of, and I'm assuming you are aware of it, and something that bothered me early on was, they'd show the first 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 cars, and there's sponsors in cars backwards, and there's some good racing in, 10, 12, 15. Now they show that more than they used to, don't they? You're looking at me like, what are you talking about?
No. I think that's right. I think it's hard. If you just think about the fact that there's 33 storylines going on at the same time, parallel plot lines, if you will, as opposed to follow the ball or follow the 2 guys punching each other in the face. It's a pretty hard sport to do. But one that I relish trying to do better, and I keep trying to improve each time I do it. But there's just a lot going on, and just trying to make sure that I will tell everybody in the room here and your listeners and viewers, I go into every race at least with a checklist. In some regards, I might be too close to the sport because I love it so much, but I always try and make sure. We got Dennis's car on. Just at least just check them off. Make sure at least I get them on. Yeah, Dennis. What about Dennis Reinbold, everybody? He was what a great interview he was. But it's you at least. Our sport's built differently, and it takes exposure, and I realize that. It's just sometimes it works out better than other times.
Another squawk I hear from time to time is in-car cameras are great. I've noticed, because I don't go to the races as much as I used to, and I watch it on NBC Sports Gold.
Great.
A number of times you're looking out of the leader's car, and there is nothing in front of him but dust, and maybe some fans in the grandstands. That seemed to me a little silly. And on the other side of that, there'll be a pass, and it's a close pass, and they'll go to the in-car camera. So you don't really see what's going on around. However, in defense of what you're doing, and I understand what you're showing, how close these cars are with open wheels, but then you do go back and get an overhead shot so you can see who was doing what around it and so on and so forth. But I've had a number of people say, why don't they do that and then come back to replay and show the in-car? I said, I don't know.
You know, that's completely valid. I mean, it's, listen, the two gentlemen that produce and direct Sunday Night Football, the highest rated television show on earth, used to work for me at ESPN, work with me. And they've been in the truck before in an auto race, and it was like, what the hell's going on? It was like, wow, what is going on here? Because, you know, football stops every 6 seconds. We don't. And you know, there's a lot of people trying to chime in to help the director. I direct a fair amount, but I like to produce more, at least in auto racing. And there's two dynamics. The onboard cameras are sold, so they're being they're also keeping tally every time we get them on, because they've paid to help us help you. So that's significant. But the other side of it is, you know, you could be looking over here, and then all of a sudden your chief spotter says, "Oh my God, look at Pagano," and you know, they've already moved 3 football fields. It's hard. It's really hard.
The thing that impresses me is I can remember when I first started doing this in the early 70s, that replay was a project. Now, geez, something happened and a replay's right now.
Yeah, I think the biggest advance, you know, you were mentioning it, and I thought that's where you were heading in a couple of questions ago. But basically the TiVo technology is the biggest advancement we've had since I've been in the business, where what used to happen when we were doing any sport, you would have a tape machine, much like anything that was analog, that the tape was being recorded on, and you would have to stop the tape machine, run it back, and then run it back over the record head. But the big problem with that is you were not in record. So you'd take a big chance that if you said, cue that up on tape machine Elvis, you could run the risk of missing another accident or something, again, because our sport doesn't stop. So with EVS technology and basically expensive TiVos is what we have now, you're in record all the time. So it's such a relief. And you can actually time shift some things. There's some things, obviously you've seen the way golf is produced, you know, 9/10 of it's not live, but it's close. But you get to see everything.
It's amazing. Something will happen, and within, you say, you know, let's look at that, and it's right there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Good grief.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I'm sitting there thinking there's some guy with his finger in a tape going, trying to get it back.
No, it's just he's just hitting the buttons and marking the spots. It's incredible. Those guys are awfully talented.
Do you direct them? Do you tell them, hey, back up, we want to get this?
There's a producer back there with them, but in general, I'm definitely watching the replays. I'm talking to the announcers. I'm looking at the graphics, and I'm getting the commercials in. That's mostly it.
I'm sure that Paul Tracy enjoys listening to you talking in his ear when he's trying to say something.
I'll tell you, Paul's amazing, actually. You know, he is really the real greats. I've found in my sports career, the champions, and Paul's certainly a champion and an undeniable winner. He sees things and he hears things. He's just an interesting character, right, Dennis? I mean, he will. I've got great respect for him, and as he's getting more and more comfortable with his role, we have what's called a cough switch or a talk back. So both Lee, Townsend, and Paul can kill their mic and say, Terry, cue that up, or, you know, they'll give me suggestions and I can take it or leave it. But the best television is made when the producer and the analysts are in sync. And Paul's just now getting to the place where he wants to do my job. So, but I'll take that because he's going to be aggressive. I tell everybody, this sport is way too hard for one or two guys up in the front bench to have all the answers. Everybody has to contribute, and then I have to make sure to make, when everybody's yelling at me, to try and make the best decision I can. But they cannot be intimidated enough by me or the director to not suggest something, you know what I mean? So I want it to be very collaborative.
Well, the thing that interests me is you remember back with Sam Posey and Bobby Unser.
Of course.
And, you know, Sam would say, well, this is what he did. And Bobby would say, you're completely wrong, Sam. Here's what happened. And I find it interesting with Paul. Something will happen and somebody will say, oh, that didn't look right. Oh, I did that.
Yeah.
It's a racing incident. Good grief.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to listen to him say, you know, here's what I've done. Essentially the same thing.
I would say the thing that everybody gets tired of in my crew, I always say right before we go on the air, make people wish they were here. Yeah, that's the charge. And then don't be boring. Be interesting. You know, that's part of our job. You're trying to show that enthusiasm. You're trying to be interesting. You're trying to inform. But you sure as hell don't want to be boring.
And I think Paul and Townsend are a good pair.
Oh, gosh. They're tremendous.
And that's kind of not quite to the degree of Bobby and Sam.
No,
but,
I would agree with that. They had a good shtick.
Yeah, they got it going on. Something else that disturbs me, because I like to follow the Road to Indy program. Mm-hmm. And they'll show the practice and qualifying. And you must tell the guys, all right, set the camera and take a break, because I'm listening to Robbie Howerton hollering about something, and I'm looking at an empty straightaway because there's nobody on the cameras. Mm-hmm. I don't know who's pushed the buttons. Obviously not you. You must have a trainee that you're...
No, you know what happens there? Again, there's always more to the story.
Oh, I'm sure.
Is unlike the Cup Series, our promoters need to fill the racing weekend up with everything that they possibly can. And there's different deals that are structured all the way through. What cable did when we first started is that the old adage of, well, while you're there, why don't you cover this? Why don't you cover that? Why don't you cover this? And before you know it, the camera guys have been out there and the people in the truck have been on since 6 a.m. crew call till 8 p.m. And they could cover everything that moves. And, you know, it's just not fair. I mean, you got to have a lunch break. You've got to, there's a lot of management issues with trying and figure that out. And then unless you want to have 16 other camera replacement people, which is just not practical. So well, there's more to it.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
But again, the thing that bothers me is I don't know who's controlling, but I would hope that the camera situation is such that they can see pretty much what's going on. Somebody can push a button.
Yeah, but to your point, Don, what happens is we're done on gold with IndyCar practice. F2000s are getting ready to go. There's a window for the guys to take lunch. So you do what's called a lock-off. Well, you can't lock off both directions, you know, and you do the best you can, and then somebody's just punching, but nobody's following anything. There's nobody on the camera.
No, I understand that, but I was hoping that there'd be some way of seeing somewhere in the area that they're talking about.
Yeah,
there's some good racing going on. You just don't see it.
Yeah, you kind of need camera guys out there.
Well, if I knew, I mean, I could, you know.
So you could do it.
Yeah, I'd do it for a sandwich.
Why are you guys you're not paying any camera guys here tonight, right? What's going on? You got to get unionized. Yeah, we're on lockoffs. So stay with me. What the hell happened? Yeah, we're on a lockoff. I just crashed over here. Boom. I'm sorry.
My IT guy sitting here having his dinner, and he puts it on the air. So whatever he does.
And you do a fine job.
So, you have driven. Are you still driving from time to time?
No, not really.
Well, you got into Broadway production and gave up driving.
It's hard. I mean, I yeah, if you can't do it halfway well, you better not do it. So I learned that.
You do the Meekum car auctions.
I did. I got it going, but I'm not doing that any longer.
Oh, you're not?
Nope.
Oh, you doing any yacht things?
No, just Red Bull is the only other thing, and then we do some Olympic sports as well.
Will you be doing the Olympics, obviously, this summer?
No, I'm not doing that. I'm staying here just to hold down the fort with IndyCar. So I've done enough Olympics.
I know at one time, and I assume it's still to be, that IMS Productions got some of the best equipment available anywhere. Do they provide your production truck, or does NBC have it?
No, it's IMSP, and you're right. They're as good as anybody, and it'll. I have no complaints there technically. I mean, they're tremendous.
Well, it's amazing. When Robbie Green came in, they were struggling, and by the end of the first year, he had them already turned around, heading in the right direction. And from what I'm told, they haven't slowed down any. Mr. Subletta has picked it right up and has run with it.
No, that's right. And I think, honestly, with the moniker of Penske Entertainment, and if you just think about that title, it's pretty exciting, actually, because the idea of trying to entertain your fan base is what it's all about. And he's got some of the best trucks anywhere in the world now that is under Penske Entertainment, and I think they could probably do. I'll just guarantee you there'll be some growth.
He made. I saw him interview somewhere, and he said that they are anticipating this year, and they'll announce it 100 days out, of some additional entertainment for the fans. He said, I want the fans to have an experience when they come here, not only the race. But he said, we're not doing it to make money. And I said to myself, oh, you're not this year, but when the word gets out 2-3 years from now, it will be worth your while, because he's not stupid. He doesn't do anything for free. He's doing it to accomplish something and get people to come back and give them something else, entertain the kids when they bring them and stuff like that. Smart man. I think to me, that was.
I got to say, though, I mean, honestly, from about the 100th, a little bit before that, we've been on a really nice roll. Those races have been well attended, like it used to be, and it's extremely exciting, and it can only get better. But I was just with Tony and Laura on Saturday night, name dropping here, but they did a heck of a job, and the whole family. And honestly, other than, I know it's been reported about toilets and paint and all this stuff, the 500 isn't too broke right now, in my opinion. I think we're on a great run. It's the most exciting racing in the world. So I want every race to feel like Indy, and that's a nice goal.
And I think I think Jay Fry is doing a great job.
Oh, absolutely.
Stuff that he has said. We're going to do this. We're going to change the car next year. We're going to add 100 horsepower in 22 or 21, I guess. I mean, everything he said he's going to do, he has done and is doing.
Yep.
And I suspect with a little help from Roger, there could be another engine upcoming in 21 or so. I would not be surprised if that happened.
Yep.
I think, and to your point, I've been told they're already painting the bathrooms.
Yeah, my sources tell me that as well.
And I thought that was funny when Doug said, I didn't realize how many bathrooms there are here, but I've been to every single one of them with Roger.
I don't think I'm talking out of school, but I'll share this story. I was talking to Doug not too long ago, and he was saying that he and Roger were by themselves in a Tahoe driving, looking at trees. They checked off other things, and it's like, now we're going to go look at how many trees we're going to replace. And he got a call. I think this was on a Friday. I might have my dates messed up, but Roger took a call and said, and he hung up and looked at Doug and said, well, they just took the money out of the bank. I guess it's my place now. But here it is. There goes a few $100 million. But the guy's out trying to figure out what the best place to put trees are, or which ones to take down, or that aren't doing well. And Doug was like, wow, that's, he wasn't there all ready to drink champagne. The guy was working. And he's working. The president of the Speedway and the new owner of the Speedway were out checking out where to take care of the landscape. God bless him. Pretty awesome.
He doesn't miss much at all.
Yeah.
And I am on trying to get him here.
You are?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
He'll
good.
be
He'll come.
Well,
if he can. He returns emails at all hours.
Oh, yeah. I asked Al Sr. one day, I said, you've been traveling with Roger for a number of years. He said, yeah. And he's always somewhere. When the hell does he sleep? He said, on a plane.
Yeah.
Most of the time he's on a plane going someplace.
Sure.
So,
yep.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Tony is going to become back as a minor owner, I think, from what I've heard, back in. So that'll be good to keep him around, I think. Mm-hmm. What would you like to do next if you could expand? I mean, there's not racing all year long, so what do you fill in? What does innovation do in addition to IndyCar?
Oh, what Don's talking about is I have an advertising agency here in town. We do a lot of different things nationally and also for the city. I'd like to just keep helping with. We'll be pretty heavily involved in the NBA All-Star bid. We did. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but all of the 3D mapping down at the Circle. My company actually ended up figuring out how to do that on the Circle that plays every night and salutes the veterans at. In the winter, it's at 6:40, a 3-minute salute to veterans. That's very dramatic. That Lily helped us put $7 million into. So I want to keep doing things civically in this town. It just makes me feel good. I'd like to, yeah. So.
Well, I called you a couple weeks ago and said, "Are you available on this Tuesday?" Or I forget what. Anyway, you said. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't make it because I was in England at a play, or Italy or someplace. I said, you went to Europe to see a play? And you said, yeah.
No, I was just watching my son in Paris. That's all.
Well, you were there. But you went to see a play, and I mean, obviously your son was. I kind of concluded that you wouldn't go to see Louis Schwartz.
No, right.
So, what?
All good.
I didn't realize that there's a dance company here in town. I wasn't aware of that. But your son is part of that. And
yeah, it's only a couple of years old. There used to be a big company here, and then it kind of got mismanaged, and now it's been 12 years since they've had a professional company, and now they're 2 years in. And again, it takes all of these things to make us all well-rounded, arts and culture and sports, and I like to be. I don't know. I'm just sleep's overrated, and I like to have my finger on a lot of things. I cannot help myself. I'm a hopeless optimist, and if I have an idea for Dennis, he'll hear about it tomorrow. I just can't I can't help myself. So. Very curious person. I think curiosity is the best trait anybody can have. That helps you learn and keeps you young.
How involved are you in the advancement of the equipment? I mean, do you come up and say, it would be neat if we could do this, whatever it would be?
Yeah, I a fair amount. I mean, I'm always watching what other people are doing, obviously, but again, my mentor that I was mentioning when I was sitting with Tom, he produced the very first Super Bowl, and he was always the type of person that said, don't be the smartest guy, especially, don't tell your engineer how to do his job, but certainly give him ideas and feed it and say, even if you know the answer, don't intimidate them. It's just like, what do you think if we did this? And I'm a big what do you think guy. Hopefully good things come from that.
How excited is NBC with picking up IndyCar? Are they happy with it? Are they pleased with what it's done?
Yeah, big time. You know, they just got MotoGP too. That was just announced. So that's, I mean, it's running the course. It's funny how the career kind of comes full circle, because ESPN had most everything. Then I gravitated towards speed and speed vision. They had most everything that moved, and now NBC has taken just this incredible interest in building out their motorsports properties, and it's just been a pleasure.
And they, you know, and what they do, 5 on the network last year, I believe it was, something like that, 5 or 6, somewhere in there.
No, it was 8.
8. Oh,
yeah, 8. And 8 again this year.
And that's got to be huge.
No, it's awesome.
And the ratings have climbed.
Yep.
I talked with a gal that worked for ABC one day. I said, why don't you put trailers on the bottom of your sporting events, IndyCar upcoming? She said, oh, we only do stuff we know people will watch. How the hell are they going to watch it if they don't know?
Yeah.
She just left. But NBC does that.
Yeah, and I think, again, boy, keep an eye on, I know it's in the middle of our season, but even the promotional with Tokyo coming up with the Olympics, that's going to create a lot of nice dividends for promotion.
I would suspect if there was a promotion done on the Super Bowl, that somewhere in the Olympics, IndyCar will appear.
Oh yeah,
from time to time.
For sure. Yeah. No, they're great to work with. They're respectful of the heritage, but yet want to push the button to try and grow the sport the best they can. It's an expensive sport. It's hard to cover. But they realize that, and it's nice to work in that environment.
And I think it's got to be good from their aspect, from televising, because whereas Formula One's got 3 or 4 teams they're going to win, without question, IndyCar's got 8 or 9, and with Dennis coming back, it could be 10 teams that could win on any given Sunday. And I think
you know, Sage is no slouch.
I think that attracts people when they realize, there's more than 1 or 2 teams that can win this thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And that makes it worth watching, in my opinion.
Yeah, I always say this thing, a lot of times when we're bench racing, when you sit there and you look at the field and you say, who knows that they're going to win? Who knows? What driver just knows he's going to win? The other, and who thinks, well, maybe if I have a good pit, I can luck into this, and luck's not even, but I can be in a position to win. But there's usually, and I would say in Formula One, there's about 4, maybe 2. In our sport, there's a legitimate 10 to 12, and then, but right behind that, there's another 5. So it brings a smile to my face. That is exactly, I always say I look a lot better, and I shouldn't say I because there's 200 of us. We look a lot better when we do Duke, Carolina, than we do my alma mater, Ball State, Iowa State. There's great action. You can't mess that up. And it's pretty hard to mess up IndyCar right now. It's on a real rise, and we just got to get out of the way.
How did NBC Gold go? Did they get the sponsor? Are they members? I just got notice about it. I went online and it's not there, because I want to get it before it. I couldn't sign up yet. Yeah. Because I want to get it when it's cheap.
Yeah, it was. We are re-examining that a touch. We're probably going to try and be a little bit more inside. We're going to try some new things. I'm going to produce all those. I did them last year. What we wanted everybody to know was that the same crew that was doing Sunday's race was doing Thursday's practice. And last year we brought everybody in, spent all the money to come in, and as I say, I was full on producing those shows, where normally that might be somebody that's trying to learn, that's behind me, giving people an opportunity to do things. Some of that's going to happen this year, but we're going to we're going to re-examine some of that, where we're not going to have full crews out there, because it was, in some regards, it was not good business. But I don't think I'm going to work hard to make sure you don't notice that.
Well, I found it interesting that they had Paul and out there prior to talking, standing on the track, on the pit lane, having to get out of the way. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Because both of those guys bring opposite things to the track. Neither one of them drove alike, and they see different things from their perspective, which I find interesting.
You know who Townsend's hero is, though, is Paul. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. And he loves to rally him up, But you can't. I don't know. You cannot. Paul is unshakable. That's what makes him great. You cannot shake the guy.
Is it true, and I've been told, we've had somebody here that says it is, that when there's an off time, you'll find him sleeping on a table?
Always. Completely. It's like, I remember this great shot of David Hobbs sleeping in his car, and he's one of those. I don't think it's narcolepsy. It's just like, I've got this, so I'm going to go take a nap. He's that confident.
Yeah. And then somebody said that one time he was on some table and it collapsed on him and it fell off or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I am honored and excited that you have the time to come here. I think what you do is, in my opinion, is unmatched, because I watch a lot of sports, and I think, as you said, racing is very difficult because there's 33 cars or 24 cars. You got to try and figure out who's doing what, when, and why, and how, actually. I think that with the backing you have, obviously, of NBC giving you what you need to put on a good show that people watch, it's phenomenal.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you taking the time to come here, and I promise
pleasure.
you I won't bother you.
Thank you all. Yeah.
I probably won't bother you until after the season. We'll try it again.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here. Terry Lingner. So when you watch television, he's the guy pushing the buttons, make it happen. We will be here next week. I have invited a couple of people. We'll see what I haven't heard back yet, unless somebody texted me and it didn't ring, which happens. But we will be here next Tuesday. I will be here. I have to try and get here on my own and not, get lost on the way. But she's going to Florida for 6 weeks. She's got a daughter who lives down there. And she said, I've had enough of you, sport, and it's cold, so I'm leaving. Anyway, we will be here next week. Thanks for everybody watching, listening. I'm glad that Howdy is here alone tonight. And I didn't hear his head hit the table, so apparently he managed to stay awake. Wow. And as I said, I don't know if I guess you were here, that Howdy Wilcox celebrated his 100th year last year, and the only guy that's still around and was there is Howdy. He was there in 1919. Yeah, he was there. Anyway, we'll be here next week. I want to thank Dennis for coming in tonight, and we all wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully we'll go from 3 races to 5 or 6. You never can tell. Till next week, Don Kay saying thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Let's see you next week. Good night.
I always enjoy it.
Oh, by the way. Grandkid that'd like to see the Monster Jam. I have 4 tickets left, not tickets, they're 20% discount. If anybody wants to go, you're welcome to have them. See you next week. Thanks. Come and get these.